I was thinking about what group of movies was the biggest franchise in history, that is, the one with the most sequels. I'm talking about full-length movies, not shorts. And the answer jumped out at me. It isn't Jason or Rocky or Harry Potter. They've had good runs, but they're not the champ. That honor has to go to James Bond. I don't have to look up the exact number to know that these movies are by far the most. It goes without saying that there's another new one coming out right now. By now, Bond has spanned generations and done it successfully, too. At times, the quality has slipped, and the movies troop past like forced rituals instead of inspired ideals. Sometimes there was the feeling that enough was enough. The turnip had been milked dry. Maybe we should let the old boy go. But no, Bond has weathered it all. Cheesy plots, insipid dialogue, cut-rate villains, bad acting, lame songs, flimsy females, dopey weapons, inferior special effects, harsh critics, even deep erosion at the box office. None of that matters. Bond always seems to bounce back. They're into the fourth or fifth or sixth Bond now, rather like Doctor Who, trying to invigorate an aging character with a fresh dose of charismatic energy and sparking up the inevitable discussions on who was the best Bond, who was the worst. The real ancestor of Bond is, I think, Tarzan. He too had many incarnations, several of them Olympic athletes. At a time when British power and influence were floundering, here came a man who was both the Lord of the Jungle and Lord Greystoke as well. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. He was without question the finest raw representation of the British blood, a noble personage with the fighting ferocity of the great apes, an unapologetic warrior. Bond, James Bond, was a thorough update on this heroic figure. British to the core and with a license to kill. He even had a number, that wonderful 007. He was also a commander, Commander Bond, harking back to the time when England ruled the seas. But he came around when the British Empire was no more, nothing but a fading memory. Once a vast global network upon which the sun never set, Britain had shrunk back to its tiny island, and even that was a slightly tawdry place, with vile weather, bad food, and unappeasable Irishmen. National pride was in tatters. Bond gave them something to cheer about. There was no situation, however dire, that he could not handle. Women could not resist him. They melted at a glance, their doubt overcome by his charm and virility. Megalomaniacs were no match for him. And he even knew the rules to all of those games of chance played in the fancy casinos. He could not only play them, he also won. Give that man a drink. Shaken, not stirred. Bond started out, I think, as a spy in a viable British operation, something like MI6, blocking the threats of dastardly dangerous Russian cutthroats. He quickly graduated, or transcended really, to a fantasy crusader opposing imaginary villains, nations, cabals, and various nearly super-powerful henchmen. Part of the reason that Bond has had such an impossibly long run, I think, is that we need him, now maybe more than ever. Because since his cinematic advent back in the 60s, things have gone from very bad to much worse. We Americans have joined the British at the bottom of the bucket. Once the shining light and hope of what was called the free world, we're now a pea-brained colossus that can't get out of its own way. We accomplished nothing but embarrassment. Last week we bombed a Doctors Without Borders hospital. We've got smart weapons with unheard of precision. We collect more so-called intelligence than any nation in the world, and we blow up a charity hospital. Maybe we could have said that they were healing enemy soldiers. We warned them and they would not stop. But no, our president apologized, said he was sorry. And he is. A week later, government sources said that the hospital was targeted because it was treating enemy soldiers. We hear that, and we shrug. You can see why we need James Bond. Though the Empire is no more, he travels all over the planet, at home on the beaches of the Caribbean, the shores of the Riviera, and the wastes of Siberia. He's never at a loss. Bond still gets the job done, which is altogether reassuring to us, living in a world where we not only do not get the job done, but for the most part cannot agree on what the job is, or even know what the job might be. Bond is effectual, something we can at least dimly recall, and therefore dream about. He sticks around, even as he flirts with parody, because we're reluctant to let him go.